Hello everyone. Got 5 dirty jokes for you today. So a bachelor named Tom loved going out to bars and clubs to meet women. One night, he noticed a beautiful woman who came into the bar on a regular basis. She always sat alone, sipping on her drink and minding her own business. After seeing her a few times, Tom decided to make his move. He approached her and tried his best to win her over with his charm and wit. But she was resistant. No thank you, she would always say when he asked her to dance or buy her a drink. Despite the rejections, Tom was determined to win her over. He saw something special in her and decided to give up his usual game. They had an instant connection and would spend hours talking, but things never got past the formalities. One night, as the bar was closing, Tom finally said, "Why won't you come home with me?" He whined to her. The woman hesitated for a moment before finally revealing her secret. "This may sound rather odd in this day and age, but I'm keeping myself pure until I meet the man I love," she said. Tom was taken back by her admission. "Wow, that must be rather difficult," he said. "Oh, I don't mind too much," she replied. "But it has my husband pretty upset." So a Texan named Jim had always believed that Texas was the biggest and greatest state in America. But one day, while watching a geography documentary, he discovered that Alaska was actually the largest state. Intrigued, Jim packed his bags and decided to move to Alaska to experience the rugged lifestyle of a true Alaskan. Upon arriving in Alaska, Jim made his way to a local bar to seek advice on how to become a real Alaskan. He approached the bartender and asked, "What do I have to do to become a true Alaskan?" The bartender took a long sip of his Alaskan whiskey and replied, "First, you have to drink a pint of our finest Alaskan whiskey. Then, you have to go out into the wilderness and wrestle a grizzly bear. And finally, you have to make love to an Eskimo woman." Jim, determined to prove himself as a true Alaskan, immediately ordered a pint of the Alaskan whiskey and downed it in one gulp. He then headed out into the wilderness to find a grizzly bear. 2 days passed, and there was no sign of Jim. The locals presumed he had been mauled by a bear and was now lying dead in the wilderness. But on the second night, to everyone's surprise, Jim stumbled back into the bar, looking battered and bruised. He walked up to the bartender and slurred, "Okay, now where's that Eskimo woman I have to wrestle?" So Jack was driving down the highway when a police officer pulled him over. The officer approached the vehicle and noticed a large number of knives in the back seat. He looked at Jack and asked, "Sir, do you have a good reason for needing all those large knives?" Without missing a beat, Jack grinned and replied, "Why yes, officer, I juggle them." The officer gave him a skeptical look and said, "Really? You expect me to believe that?" Jack nodded enthusiastically and said, "Absolutely. With your permission, I'd be more than glad to give you a demonstration right here and now." The officer, feeling a bit uneasy, cautiously stepped back and said, "All right, but you'd better be telling the truth." Without any hesitation, Jack hopped out of the car and began juggling the knives right there on the side of the road. The officer watched in amazement as Jack tossed the knives high into the air, catching them with ease. As he was juggling, 2 old men happened to drive by and both gazed in astonishment at the spectacle. The one looked at the other and said, "Sure glad I gave up drinking. These sobriety tests are getting ridiculous." So a car gets a flat tire on the interstate one day. The lady driver eases it over onto the shoulder of the road. She carefully steps out of the car and opens the trunk. She then takes out 2 cardboard men, unfolds them and stands them at the rear of the vehicle facing oncoming traffic. The lifelike cardboard men orange trench coats and appear naked to approaching drivers. Not surprisingly, the traffic became snarled and backed up. It wasn't very long before a police car arrives. The officer, clearly enraged, approaches the lady of the disabled vehicle yelling, "What is going on here?" "My car broke down," officer says the woman calmly. "Well, what the hell are these obscene cardboard pictures doing here by the road?" asks the officer. "Well, those are my emergency flashers," she replies. So the police detectives were having trouble determining whether or not their suspects were guilty. They just couldn't get them to confess. After hearing word of a telepath who was able to determine if any person brought before him committed a crime, they decide to consult him. They bring the first suspect in, and instantly the man says, "This person has committed murder. He murdered a pizza man delivering to his house." Speechless, the police start to think this man is the real deal. He has to be telling the truth, they say to each other. "We haven't told him anything about the case." They bring another suspect in, and instantly the man says, "This man is innocent and has committed no crimes. He was framed of burglary by his next-door neighbor, Bill Summers." The cops are dumbfounded. How does he know? "We haven't told him anything about the case." The cops are a bit skeptical and decide to make a little test. They bring in a beautiful woman they know to have not committed a felony. An officer enters the room with her, and instantly the man says, "This woman has committed theft." The officer, knowing this is a lie, tells the man, "We knew it. We brought her in to truly test your abilities, and clearly you're fraud." They dismiss the woman. "I would catch up to her if I were you," says the man. "And why is that?" asks the officer. "Because she stole your wallet."